Hi guys, welcome to CloudFolklore, where we unravel the mysteries of the digital sky. I'm Goodness Ebo, and today we're going to be unraveling the mysteries behind Ansible. Let's get to it. Due to the amount of information I intend passing in this Ansible Crash Course, we're actually going to divide this course into multiple videos. I'm not sure if it's going to be more than 3 or 4 videos, but it's definitely going to be more than one. So let's get right to it. Now, Ansible is actually an open source automation platform that simplifies complex tasks like configuration management, application deployment, and orchestration. It allows you to automate repetitive tasks, freeing up time for more strategic work, right? I like to see Ansible as this very super smart computer program that helps you manage your computer system, without you needing to install anything extra on them. It's like having this very handy assistant that can do all sorts of tasks for you automatically. We talked about the configuration management aspect. Ansible actually ensures that your systems are in a desired state by defining configurations through Ansible playbooks. For application deployment, Ansible actually automates the deployment process of applications, ensuring that they are deployed in a consistent manner across your multiple servers or nodes. For orchestration, it actually coordinates multiple tasks across different servers and environments, allowing you to automate complex workflows, right? Probably you want to probably not something even that complex. Probably you want to just launch like a web server across like let's say you want to launch Apache across multiple managed nodes. You can do that with Ansible. Imagine having to go into each of these server and manually install and set up your Ansible, like set up your Apache on these multiple servers. But this will save time. Imagine you have like 100 server. Ansible is going to help you save time, right? And it's actually going to automate the whole process for you. That's what Ansible is used for. And let's head on to why we need to use Ansible. Now imagine that you have these robots, right, that can do all sorts of repetitive, boring tasks for you, like setting up your software, installing a web server, scheduling a job on like your multiple servers, right? And making sure that all your computer systems are actually configured the same way, right? That's what Ansible does. It saves you time, reduces mistakes, and makes managing your systems much, much more easier, right? One of the benefits of using Ansible is one, its simplicity. Again, it's agentless. It's actually very scalable. It is versatile, and it's actually community friendly, right? It has this very vibrant community that provides support, modules, and playbooks, to extend the functionality of Ansible. Now let's look at some terms used in Ansible. Well, in this course, I'm going to be using master node and slave node a lot. So I prefer calling it that. So I just decided to like add it to the terms used in Ansible. The master node is actually the node, server, or a VM, right? Where Ansible is installed. It is that control node that Ansible uses to initiate connections and push commands and configurations to like your managed nodes. While the slave nodes is just basically the managed nodes. It's those multiple servers that you'll actually be carrying those configuration and commands on, right? So I like to call them slave nodes. Inventory is a list of managed nodes that Ansible will connect to execute tasks on. You have your playbook. Playbook is basically a YAML file, right, containing some sets of plays, each consisting of one or more tasks. So this sets of plays is actually what Ansible is going to like pass on to the slave nodes that they're going to carry out. For example, I can write a play to install Apache. I can write a play to source let's say a repository from GitHub. I can also like write a play to like schedule jobs for a particular thing, probably to send mail or something, right? You also have tags. Tags actually an action performed by Ansible, such as installing a package or restarting a service. You have module. Module are like reusable units of code, that perform specific tasks. So there are multiple modules within Ansible. You have the apps module, you have the YUM, you have copy, you have file, you have package. We're actually going to like look at some of this module while we're in this going through this course. You have rules. While rules are just organizational units of playbooks, right? They help you to modularize and reuse your code, right? Now, instead of like having this very, very redundant playbook where nothing is reusable, right? You can have like you can instate rules into your Ansible to make it much more usable and make it much more reusable rather. You also have facts, right? Facts are just informations like that are collected by Ansible, right? You know, when you don't you see it though, but when you connect to your host servers, Ansible actually gathers information about this managed server or about this your slave nodes, right? You can collect information about the type of system, the OS version, IP addresses, you know, some information while you are connected to this host system. Now let's look at how Ansible works. Um, Ansible follows this push-based model where the control machine connects to the managed nodes via SSH. It executes tasks and then disconnects, right? It also uses this declarative language, as I explained previously, it's YAML, right, to define like desired states of systems in your playbooks, right? Now, what's this push-based model? Let me like explain it properly. Now, it's just simply where the control nodes initiates the connection to the managed node. The control nodes in our case is what I call the master node, and the managed nodes are the slave nodes, right? So it's just basically a model where the master node initiates connection to the slave nodes, you know, and then pushes configuration, scripts, command, etc. to like be carried out. That's basically what the push based model is all about. If you look at this diagram below, you see inventory, Ansible config file, playbook. These are basically some what do you call it? These are basically some utilities that Ansible would use, you know, to like carry out actions on the slave nodes, right? You have the master node right here via SSH connection. It's sending your play down to the slave nodes, right, for them to be carried out. Now, these slave nodes can be multiple, can be different systems. Like I said, Ansible is very versatile, so you can use it on multiple systems, right? You can use it on, let's say your master node can be Ubuntu, your slave node can be CentOS, can be Red Hat, you know, it's very, very versatile. Now let's go fully into the practical mode. So I already provisioned 3 virtual machines. They are Vagrant managed virtual machines, 2 Ubuntu and 1 CentOS. The first Ubuntu is the master node, while the second one is the slave node. Then the third one, which is a CentOS distribution, is actually slave 2. So let me quickly VI into my Vagrant file so you can see what it looks like. I can see from here that this is the master node. It's Bento Ubuntu 22.04. It's actually an Ubuntu 22.04. I gave it a private network of 192.168.20.137. I also attached a forwarded IP to my host machine as a 6067. For the slave, I gave it an IP of 138. It's Ubuntu 23.04. For the slave 2, I gave it an IP of 139. It's a CentOS 9 distribution. I also gave this a forwarding port of 6069 to my host system. So that's basically it. Oh, let's move on to installing Ansible. So I'm going to Vagrant SSH into my master node quickly. Yeah, we check the IP address. You see it's the 137, it's the one ending 137 as our master. Let's SSH into slave 1. Oh, what are the SSH? Check the IP. It's the one ending with 138. Let's SSH into our slave 2. I don't know why I keep forgetting to add the SSH. Yeah, slave 2.
That's our CentOS distribution, CentOS 9. If you check the IP address, that's 139, right? So that's accurate. Now let's move on to our master node where we would install Ansible. Then when we're done installing Ansible, we'll move on to the other section of this course. Before I install Ansible, I just want you to take note of one thing, which is this command, sudo apt update. So basically what this command does is that it updates my repository index. Now it goes into my repository index in my VM. Let's call that our local repository, right? Now it goes into our local repository and checks for the version of let's say applications you want to install. Then it goes on to the remote repository online to update it or to update my local repository. That way, when I'm installing these applications, I'm installing the most recent version, right? I can give you another analogy. Let's think of it as a library. Now, let's think of it as a physical library. Now, that physical library has different editions of a book, right? Of different books. Now, if I update that my local library or my physical library, it means that I'll get newer editions of the book, right? Of books there. So that's basically what it means. So when I run sudo apt update, it's going to go into those remote repositories to check for newer version of utilities, applications I might need to install. Then it's going to give me a feedback. Okay, you have 83 packages that can be upgraded, right? So if I run the apt list upgradable command, it's going to give me a list of all the packages I could install a newer version of it at the moment, right? So when I run the apt list upgradable, it's going to give me a list of an upgraded list of packages that I could install, like upgraded versions. So now I've done the sudo apt update, I can go on to installing my Ansible. The command to install Ansible is sudo apt install. Since we're using an Ubuntu server, Ubuntu uses apt as a package manager. So we're going to use sudo apt install Ansible. Yeah. It's installing. Great. Our Ansible has finished installing. Now we'll move on to the next section. But before we do that, right? I move on to like connecting my master nodes to my slave nodes and talking about other stuff. Let's quickly deal with SSH because it's really important that we deal with SSH at this early stage. Well, Ansible uses OpenSSH as a way to connect to and manage remote servers or devices, right? Now, Ansible leverages off OpenSSH capabilities to securely communicate with target machines. I'm talking about my slave nodes in this case. Execute commands, transfer files, and manage configurations, allowing for efficient automation. Now, SSH has key pairs, right? We call them SSH key pairs. Now, these SSH key pairs are used to securely authenticate and connect to remote servers without needing a password. So let me explain to you. Now, SSH has two keys. One is the public key and one is the private key, right? Now, the public key, now, when I create my SSH key pair on my master node, right? I'm going to like send this public key. Now, this public key is the shareable key, right? I'm going to share, the public key is the one that you share with anyone or any server that you want to access. So I'm going to send the public key from my master to my slave node so I can access and communicate with my slave nodes, right? Then the private key is the one that my master node is going to keep secret. I'm not supposed to show that to anyone, right? It's going to be kept in my master node. Now, when I attempt to connect my master node to my slave node, right, using the public key, right, the public key creates a kind of a challenge, right? Then my master node responds to this challenge by using its private key that it's stored, right? Then if the response is correct, right, between the master and the slave node will grant access, right, to my master node, confirming that my master node possesses the corresponding private key, without ever needing to like without ever needing to transmit that private key to the slave node. Remember I told you that the private key has to be kept safe and secret. So Ansible just basically uses these SSH key pairs to create connection and communication between the master and the slave node. That's just what SSH does in Ansible. It's really important because without SSH, the servers can't communicate with each other. I can't send files over. So I did this thing when I was learning Ansible, right? I kind of created my own file system using Ansible between all my VMs on my system, right? What I did was that I created SSH key pairs for all my VMs, and I was able to transfer files from one VM to another. It was quite exciting doing that, right? But I didn't need to like stress myself anymore. If I needed a file on my other VM, I just needed to like run use Ansible to like push that file to my other VM. Right? It makes for automation and makes it easy to transfer files. Let's move on to creating those key pairs. So before I create those key pairs, I want to show you something. I just want you to know that you should be able to SSH into your slave nodes, slave node 1 and slave node 2, without even creating an SSH key pair. It's just going to ask for a password. So if I run vagrant SSH, let's get one of those IPs for slave 1, 192.16. Okay, let me just copy it. Yes. Oh, I don't know why I added vagrant SSH, then just the IP address. So then the password. So now I've SSH into my slave node from my master node. If I run the IP ADDR, you'll see that this is the IP address of my slave node, right? Of my slave node 1, of my slave 1. Let's just call it slave 1. Let's make it shorter. And if I SSH into, let me quickly copy the IP address of slave 2. If I SSH into my slave node, my CentOS slave node, it's going to answer fingerprint, yes, okay. So if I run the password, now I'm in my CentOS slave, right? My slave 2. If I run the IP ADR, you'd see this is the IP address of my vagrant, of my slave 2. So that's that. So we can do that. Let me exit quickly. So let's exit again. Let's make sure we're in our master node. Great. So this should be our master node. So I run IP ADR. Remember our master node has IP address of 137. Yeah. So that is our master node. So that's clear. All right, so now I'm going to move on to creating our SSH key pair, and the command to generate our SSH key pair is SSH-key gen, right? Now, if I run this command, it's going to generate the IDRSA key type. Now, I don't want to use IDRSA. I prefer ED25519. I personally think it's more secure, and apart from it being more secure, it's shorter. IDRSA is too long. I don't like it. Copying it is stressful, right? So I prefer using ED25519. Even if I want to like just cross-check if it's the same thing, I just generally favor the other one over this one. So I'm just quickly going to cancel. Then I'm going to run the SSH keygen. Now, to put in the type you want, you have to use the -t flag. I'm putting 2ED25519. We'll also add a comment in our key file. Let's call it Ansible, so we can recognize, okay, this is the Ansible, this is the SSH keys that I generated for Ansible. So when I hit this, I'm also going to create a path for it. Background /.ssh. Now let's call it Ansible. So when I'm done creating this key file, the private key is going to be called Ansible and the public is going to be called Ansible.pub. That's what I intend that's what I intend doing. So let's hit that. I don't need key phrase. Nope. So created our Ansible key pairs. So if I seed into, first of all, if you want to get your SSH, if you run the ls command, right, you won't see your SSH folder because it's actually an hidden file, an hidden folder, right? So to do that, to get into hidden folders, you have to run ls-la. Now, this will enable see our hidden folder, right? .ssh. So I would seed into .ssh. Let's list it. Let me quickly bring this to the top so you can see it. Let's list it. So I have our Ansible private key and our Ansible public key. I'm not going to show you the public key, the private key, but I'm going to cut the Ansible public key. is the public key. So this is the key I'm going to be sending over to my slave nodes, my slave 1 and my slave 2, right? So let's quickly run the command to do that. Now the command to push this into my slave node is SSH-copy ID. -I, since I'm inside the SSH directory, I think I can just call on Ansible itself. That should work. Yeah, Ansible.pub. Then I'll just put in the IP address I'm pushing it to 192.168.205. I think one of them is 138, okay? That's 138. So I should be able to push this. Okay, password. Yeah, so I think that was successful. Let's quickly move to our slave node 1 to check. If I cd into, no, rather, let's cd into .ssh. Let me quickly move this to the top so I can see what I'm doing. If I cd into .ssh, let's list authorized key file. Let's cut our authorized key files. Yeah, so you see, our Ansible was successfully copied, our public key rather was successfully copied to our slave 1. That's good. So let's copy that same public key to the slave 2 node. For this, I'm just going to show you that it's possible to copy the public key even if you are not inside the SSH directory in my master. So let's cd out of it. Let's go to our home directory. If I do pwd, this present working directory /home/background. So basically what I'm going to do is I'll run the SSH-copy-ID. I'll run the -I as well. So basically the -I flag is just to signify the path where I'll be using to send the path to the public key. So in this case, it's .ssh. This theta stands for the home. .ssh / Ansible pub. Right, so let's tab it if we're going to get the full path here. Ansible.pub. Then I'll just put in the IP address. In our case, it's 192.168.205.13. I think slave 2 is 139. I'm not mistaken. Let's quickly check that. Yeah, 139. So let's not forget, the master node is 137. Slave node 1 is 138. Slave node 2 is 139. So that's our standard we're going by. Okay, background. Great. I've copied the public key to slave 2. So if we quickly go into slave 2, if I cut it, I'm sorry, I have to cd into .ssh. Cut your authorized key file. Oh, cut. That's fine. Okay, yeah, Ansible. So that's great. So we have our public key files. So now we can move on to creating our Ansible folder. So this is our master node. So let's quickly make, yeah, we just have to make sure. So let's quickly make our, let's make our Ansible directory. So let's command make the Ansible, let's call it Ansible. That's fine. So let's see into Ansible. Well, in Ansible, the first file I want to create is my inventory file. You can call it inventory, you can call it inventory host, doesn't matter. If I veer into my inventory file, I just put in the IP addresses of my slave nodes or my managed nodes. Let's call this, the first one is 192.168.205.1398. While the second one is 139. Let me just quickly copy that. Yeah, 139. I can actually move on to like breaking this down, right? I can move on to like grouping them or segmenting them properly. I can actually use this. The first one is Ubuntu, right? So I can call this Ubuntu, right? If I want. Then I can group this as CentOS if I want. So we could actually use like this. Now, instead of using IP, you can actually, if your VM or your server has a domain name assigned to it, you can use the domain name instead, right? But we don't have a domain name for this one, so I'm just going to use the IP addresses. Let's save it. Now, another thing you can actually do, let's quickly sudo vi into host file / I think it's /etc/host. Yeah. Now, if I move it, I can actually put in the IP addresses here. 192.168.205. I think the first one is 138. Yeah. Then give it a name, Ansible node 1. Right. And I can now put this Ansible node 1 into my inventory file, but I really don't want to do that. I just want to use the IP like that, but this would work if you wanted to use the standard. So we have let's cut our inventory file. Great, we have our inventory file. So the first thing we want to do is ping this our inventory file. So there are different modules used in Ansible, right? You have the apt module, you have the yum module, you have package. Another module is the ping, right? So let's quickly ping our servers, our slave 1, our slave 2. So basically what that does is that it's actually ping is not just like, it's not just pinging it, right? You're actually creating a connection to those server, making sure that there's stable connection between you and between the master node and the slave node. So if I run the command Ansible all, I'll signify that I want to ping all of my all of my managed servers. Key file, I'll just signify the key file that we're using. In our case, it's Ansible, right? That's our private key. And we also have to signify the file that we're pointing to, which is the inventory file. Then we have to use the ping module, -m for module. Then we're using the ping module. So let's hit it. Let's see if it will connect. Oh, great, successful. So we successfully pinged our Ubuntu and our CentOS slaves. But we're having a deprecation warning. This is deprecation CentOS 9 on the host. Okay. So this guy is saying that we're supposed to use this, but it's using this. So probably in the future, we won't be able to use this part, right? We'll only be able to use this part, but that's not a problem for now. I'm going to teach you how to remove deprecation warnings. But before we do that, I want to make something clear. Now look at this file. Look at this command. It's actually long. I will actually shorten it. I don't want to be, if I want to like, let's say if I want to ping, or if I want to like run a play, or if I want to run an ad hoc, imagine always reminding your Ansible, always reminding the Ansible that you have to like, that you're using a key file called .ssh /Ansible as the private key. And you also have to remind them that using the -i inventory, right? You're telling them that you're pointing to the inventory file. We don't need to do that, right? That's why you have the ansible.config file, right? What the ansible.config file does for you is that it holds those configurations for you. Now, when Ansible wants to run a play, it's going to move into that config file and search for your default configurations or all the configurations you made in that file before running that command, right? So let's quickly do that. Let's create our ansible.config file. Yeah, so in our ansible.config file, I want to use it as default. Hold on, identifier, escape. Okay, good. Default. So we're going to use defaults. Well, for our inventory file, inventory is equal to, I think we called it inventory. Then our private key file, I think we call that our private key file is home /.ssh/Ansible. Yeah, this is it. So when we want to, if we want to run this command again, now we don't need this because we already put that in our configuration file, and we don't need this as well. So you see how we shorten the command. Isn't this easier? This is easier. Just hit this and you'll be able to ping. Yeah, we'll still have that deprecation one. Let's quickly remove it, right? Let's remove that. Let's remove that deprecation one. So let's veer into our ansible.config file. It's deprecation warnings. So let's run that command again. Well, I have a bad habit of searching through the history to my previous command, but I think I will just write it down. Ansible all -m ping. Or just ping in the M module. So if we do this, this should remove deprecation warnings. Great. So our deprecation warning has been removed. If I cut that Ansible config file, this is what we have. Default inventory, inventory as inventory, private key files, home/.ssh/Ansible. The deprecation warning is equal to false. So that's that. We're good. We're good.
Hi guys, I hope you've enjoyed this course so far. We explained what Ansible is all about. We talked about some terms used in Ansible. We also discussed the theory on how it works, right? We went on to talk about the open SSH. We created our key pairs, the public and the private key pairs on the master node. We're also able to send that public key to the slave node, right? Remember I told you the private key is supposed to be secret and it's not supposed to be shared outside of your master node, right? Then from there, we created our inventory and our config files. We're able to ping the slave nodes from the master node, thereby creating our connection, right? Well, in our next video, we're going to take it a step further and go into harder commands fully, right? I hope this video was helpful and you're able to follow along. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.